What is up, guys? This is Roundhouse Ape with another video, and today I'm just gonna be doing my rundown or breakdown or picks or whatever you want to call it of the pay-per-view next week, UFC 296 on Saturday, December 16th. Right now, as I'm recording this, this is the 10th, so it's about a week out. I may re-record it closer to, but this may be what I'm sticking with. And I might just have a second update video closer, like within a day or two of the fight, depending on if there's any more card changes or whatever. But there's six main fights I plan to go over, maybe seven. I know less about the fighters after that, but I plan to break down my whole main card, a couple on the preliminary card, and that that's kind of it for the video there. But the fight is next week, and the headline is Leon Edwards versus Kobe Covington for the welterweight title, and then the co-main event is Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval for the 125 championship. So there's a huge lineup for a bunch of great fights going on. First of all, you have two championship fights going on, and Pantoja was electric in his last fight against was it Brandon Moreno? Yeah. I believe he won the decision, but he won a clear decision and he looked great in that fight. Royval, though, I don't think has lost since Pantoja or Moreno, so that should be interesting. But I'm going to go in order. I'll get back to that fight. So we'll go first to the two fights I'm looking at on the preliminary card. But the first one I like is Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell at 145. You have 18-4 Josh Emmett versus 16-2 Bryce Mitchell. And this is a really interesting one. Emmett was supposed to fight Giga Chikadze, who's a very good up and comer, but he, I believe, tore his quad. I believe it was. I'm not positive. There's a video of it. He tore his quad in training. So Giga Chikadze's out. Bryce Mitchell stepped in short notice. There was rumors about it going to be Aljamain Sterling, but it's Bryce Mitchell instead. This could be a good get back fight for Mitchell if he wins, because his last fight was against he took a decision against Dan Ige, I guess. But before that, he had a bad submission loss to Ilia Topuria, and before he got submitted, it was he was kind of getting pieced up on the feet. I'm not gonna lie to you, he didn't look that great. I didn't watch the Ige fight, but he gets the bounce back win against the Ige this year. So he's fought this year. He's a bit active. Emmett is on the older side now. I'm not gonna lie about that. What is he? He's 38 now, but he packs a lot of power in his punch. He lost the decision to Topuria, so he's fought Topuria. He's arguably done better, even though I watched that fight. He obviously he wasn't able to create much offense for himself. So that's that. He beat Cater in a close decision, and then he's beaten Ige. So they were both have been fighting the same amount of competition. He's beat Burgos before that in 2020, and so he was on a decent winning streak. He lost to Stevens and then went on a three, four, a five fight win streak, so that's not bad. And that's him versus Mitchell. So I like both of these fighters in this. If you look at their overall, Emmett's 5'5" with a 70-inch reach. Bryce Mitchell is 5'8". They have the same reach. A lot of people look at Emmett on his way out. I'm a big fan of Emmett. I like his personality. I think he's a great guy, down to earth guy. Oh, I don't know exactly who's the underdog in this fight. In my opinion, should be a close fight or even a pick 'em. But I'm gonna take Emmett in this fight just because I'm kind of a fan of Emmett. I want to see what happens, and I can definitely see him possibly finishing Mitchell. And I don't know if I can see Mitchell finishing him unless he gets him in a really bad spot on the ground. So I don't know. You have Irene, so that's that for that fight. At women's bantamweight, you also have Irene Aldana fighting, and her last fight was for the championship. She lost, obviously, but I just thought that was interesting. You guys, if you guys want to know. But the last fight on the prelim we're gonna really focus on right now is Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. I don't really know anything about Brian Kelleher. I just know Garbrandt. He kind of has not had the best of luck in recent memory. That's just kind of that for sure. So we go back. Dillashaw, obviously, beat him twice. So you go back to 2016. He beat Dominic Cruz in that great decision. He beat Takeyawa Mitsugaki, beat Almeida, and then this is when his string of losses comes. He loses to Dillashaw, drops it to Dillashaw again, drops one to Munoz, and then he gets it back with the win over Asuncao, loses the Cara France and Rob Font, and then now he's fighting Kelleher. So I think Kelleher is honestly a lot worse than him because the people that Garbrandt has fought and lost to, it's like Rob Font, Cara France. A Sunsao is a great finish for him too, so he breaks up the losing streak in the middle of that. But the people he's lost to, Munoz is the worst out of all of them, and he's still a top 10 fighter. So he's fought top of the line competition still. So that's why I this tells me I kind of do want to go with Garbrandt on this one. So I'll take Garbrandt. We would have loved to see this Giga Chikadze versus Emmett fight, but that's how she goes. So we'll take Garbrandt and Emmett in my two prelim fights. Now, I'll just run down the entire main card. First of all, I'll just read off all the fights, and then I'll start with the bottom one and work my way up. So first off, for the main event, you have the welterweight championship, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Second co-main, you have Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval, two for the flyweight championship, and then you have undefeated up and comer Shavkat Rakhmonov versus a freaking really popular veteran and Steven Thompson, been around here for a while, great kickboxer. And then at lightweight, you have El Kakoi, Tony Ferguson versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. And this is a very interesting fight for a lot of people because obviously you see Tony on his big losing streak. And then Pimblett, they obviously kind of want to give a win after his bad loss to Jared Gordon. Not loss, I consider it a loss almost to Jared Gordon. Because honestly, most people look at it as Pimblett lost that fight, but they gave the decision to Gordon anyway, or Pimblett anyway, unfortunately for Gordon. But yeah, and then for the opening fight for the main card, you have Vicente Luque versus Ian Gary. And I don't know if you guys seen all the stuff going around about about not these two, but about Ian Gary and all that stuff. It's kind of wild stuff, and I can't wait to see the press conference with him and Kobe Covington. But the eyeball test wants you make you pick Gary because he's the undefeated prospect coming up. So that's a tough one. In I don't know. It wasn't the Jeff Neal fight or it wasn't the Neil Magny fight, but I think it might have been Darren Weeks. There was a fight recently. I think it was a 2022. No, Song Kanan. He almost got finished, and he ends up coming back and winning the fight. So you can see that he's crackable. I think that Vicente Luque is a big step up, his biggest step up yet, and he's lost a lot. He has 9 losses, but Vicente Luque has fought top competition. I'd say a little bit harder competition, not completely harder. He's fought Jeff Neal. Well, no, Gary didn't fight Neal. He fought Magny, and then he lost to Bilal. He's beaten Chiesa. He beat Tyrod Woodley by submission actually, so he's actually on a decent winning streak right now. He beat Dos Anjos, so he's on a one. No, never mind. He lost to those two. I don't know what I'm talking about. So he's on a losing streak. He snapped it to Dos Anjos. So the only thing is, I don't really like the Dos Anjos fight, his last fight, because I don't really know how you can weigh a win against Dos Anjos at welterweight with him being this old now. But my gut makes me want to take Luque. I see him upsetting Gary here and ending the hype train. So that's just kind of what I see happening with that fight. On to Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett. We're going to take Tony Ferguson in this one just because I don't think Paddy is that great, honestly. He's shown huge weakness in his game, and obviously, Ferguson, this is like. I think this should be if he loses should 1000% be his last fight. I almost want this to be his last fight, win or lose, but he has been on a bad losing streak and it was worse with the submission loss to Bobby Green. because he only had one submission win before that, which wasn't really a great showing for him. But in all these losses, he has still been able to find some success a lot of times. Like the Chandler fight, he actually won the first round before he ended up getting KO'd in the second. So it's really hard to judge some of his losses, but he's also been on a bad losing streak now, and you know how that stuff happened, like all the damage to your chin and all that, that stuff adds up. So I can understand that. But I'm gonna take Tony Ferguson here. I want to see my boy Tony Ferguson pull it out, finally get a win and snap this losing streak. Maybe even retire that night and call it a good career after a win, finally snapping that losing streak. So that's what I got for that. For the welterweight event, right before the co-main, you have Rachmanov versus Thompson. Thompson's an older guy, 40. He's definitely not as good on the feet and in the clinch, I don't think, as Rachmanov. Rachmanov has some good power, and he has some great striking. I don't know. It's definitely not as precise as Thompson. I could see Thompson catching him with a kick, I guess, maybe, off a fouled takedown or out of a clinch, maybe. Some creative striking. But I can either see Shavkat winning this by decision or winning this by submission after just kind of wearing Thompson down. I'm a big fan of Thompson, but I don't see him winning this one at all against Shavkat, so Shavkat's my pick. And then we're at the co-main event, the flyweight championship, Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Royval has been good. His last two losses are both to the champ or the previous champ. So that's so he's been facing the best guys in the division. He beat Matthew Schnell, who I don't really know much about him, but he got a first round submission over him. Got a first round TKO over Matthew Nagalu. So he hasn't fought anybody that great since his last two losses. But before that, he's lost to Pantoja by submission, Moreno by submission, round one and two. But he's beaten Cara France and Tim Elliott, so that's solid for him. I really like Pantoja. I think Pantoja's just coming into his own now. Pantoja's a different beast now. I really like Pantoja in this one. I think Rival may be able to give him a little challenge, but I just think Pantoja will bring too much for him. I got Pantoja in that one. So for our last pick of the day, we got Leon Edwards 21 and 3 versus Kobe Covington 17 and 3. Covington has not been very active the last couple of years, only about a fight a year since I believe either 2020 or 2019. Let's see here. So 2019 was the last year he had more than one fight in 1 year, so 5 years. I know he's been dealing with injuries and then the lawsuit stuff with Masvidal. He hasn't fought crazy people. He's fought Kamaru, but Masvidal as his last fight, I don't like a ton, just because Masvidal's out now, and I think he lost his last fight to Gilbert Burns or someone. I'm not positive, but let's just check, I guess. But so I don't like that as his last fight, but that's kind of just how it goes, I guess. But you have Masvidal there as right. So you don't really have much to judge him off of recent fights, I guess. But he's a great wrestler. You could argue that credential-wise, he's obviously a better wrestler than Kamaru Usman. I'm not gonna say if that he's a better MMA wrestler than Kamaru because they've both fought. I don't know how well he's been able to implement his grappling. Leon Edwards has shown that he has made bounds and leaps in his striking every fight almost, and that he's even gotten better as a champion. He put on a masterclass against Usman in the last fight. My heart wants to say Covington. I think Covington could take it with his pressure fighting takedowns, but I could see Leon piecing him up for 5 rounds straight, defending takedowns and just getting this to a decision. I don't see Leon finishing him, so that's my problem with not wanting to pick Leon. But I'm gonna pick. I want to root for Kobe almost. I almost want Kobe to win, but logically I'm gonna pick Leon for this one. I see a lot of people picking Covington, but it's just his takedown defense has looked great. I don't know how great his grappling is overall, but his striking is elite. And if Covington's not able to get him to the ground, I don't see this fight going well for Covington. So I will go with Leon Edwards. So just as a rundown of all the fights of the main card, you have Leon Edwards versus Kobe Covington for the welterweight title. You have Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval for the flyweight title. Shot undefeated up-and-comer Shavkat Ramadov versus legend legend or veteran, sorry, veteran and Steven Thompson. You have El Cacuya off the big losing streak versus Patty Pimblett, and then you have Vicente Luque versus undefeated Ian Gary. So this one should be a banger card. A lot of these cards coming up for the end of towards the end of the year are bangers, and man, up until UFC 300s, there should be some great cards. So that's kind of all I have now for my picks and rundown of what I think is going to go down at UFC 296. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if there's any insights or opinions you guys want to share in the comments, I'd be glad to look through those and read those. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Bye.